Hey, what's going on, guys? Banana156 here. Welcome to another video. Remember to like, dislike, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I do read all comments, so make sure to leave one. And yeah, so let's get right into the video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the labor theory of value and why profit is theft. So, first of all, what's the labor theory of value? So, the labor theory of value is essentially, you have raw materials. The raw materials are worth, say, $1,000. The labor, so then you, the worker, works on them and applies labor to them. Now they're worth $3,000. Where did the 2,000 come from? The 2,000 came from the labor. The labor created the value. So see, that's why it's called the labor theory of value, because labor creates value. And that's why I say that that's why companies need workers. Without workers, a company fails, but without CEOs, the company is fine, because labor is the thing that creates value, and labor is the most important thing. So why is profit theft? So profit is like when, say, you bought materials for 1K, then you sold the finished product for 3K, and then you paid your worker 500, took the 1,000 to pay for more materials, and then you pocketed the other 1,500. That 1,500 would be considered profit. But the CEO pocketing that money is theft, because he's not the one that created value. So like this plays back into the labor theory of value. So I'm going to use an analogy here. So say you work at a burger place. The ingredients that the manager provides you with is worth $1,000. You make burgers out of those ingredients, and then you sell all the burgers that you made for $3,000. There you go. So you sold for $3,000. So now, out of the $3,000, $1,000 goes back to pay for ingredients. That's fine. That should happen. But then you only get paid $1,000, and then the other $1,000 is pocketed by the manager or the CEO, and the CEO keeps that money, and that money is considered profit. But why is it theft? Because the CEO did nothing. He supplied the ingredients, but he did not provide any of the labor that made those ingredients worth the money. So why did the ingredients go from being worth 1K to 3K? It's because you as the cook made those ingredients into really good burgers, and then those burgers sold for 3K instead of 1K. So you're the one that created that extra 2K in value. So you should be paid the 2K that you created. So see, that's the essential idea behind why profit is theft. That's just the idea there. And how does this apply in the real world? Well, this applies all the time. And this is why private owns of the means of production never work, because they work, but they are incredibly unjust and are theft. Because places like Amazon, they pay their workers terribly, but Jeff Bezos pocketed $100 billion over the pandemic or something like that. All of that money is theft. He did not create the value himself. Sure, he came up with the idea, and he made the company when it first started. So yes, he should be compensated for that. But he's not creating any of the value currently. He's not doing anything currently. It's the workers who are the ones that are creating value. So therefore, they should see the money that they made. They made that $100 billion, and it should be redistributed among the workers. And this is one of the main ideas behind socialism. The main idea is that private owns of the means of production leads to an increasing wealth gap between the bourgeois and the proletariat, and that is unjust, because the bourgeois class, or the owner class, does not create any value. It is the working class, or the proletariat, which creates the value through labor. So that's the labor theory of value. That's why profit is theft. Now, how do we stop profit? How do we stop this vicious cycle of the owner class pocketing huge amounts of money while the working class gets paid dirt poor wages? So how you stop this is by having collective owns of the means of production. Now, that's not going to happen anytime soon. At least not right. It's not happening right now. So what are some, or it could happen, but I'll get into that later. So what's a very realistic scenario? So currently there are some. One is upping the minimum wage, which needs to be done. The minimum wage should be $24 by now. And so yeah, we got to up the minimum wage to at least 15 and put in a plan where the minimum wage increases to 24 and then increases or decreases according to inflation. So like if the currency got worth less, the minimum wage drops from $24 to $22. But if inflation goes back up, it goes from 22 back to 25. So that's the plan. That's the kind of legislation that we need for the minimum wage. Now, after minimum wage, because the minimum wage isn't enough, obviously, we need really strong unions. Now, the Nordic countries are great at this. They have great unions and stuff like that. They have great unions, just great collective bargaining power. Unions allow workers to collectively bargain for more things, like higher wages, for example, better benefits, more time off, like maternity leave, stuff like that, If we don't have healthcare yet, healthcare, dental care, vision care, good retirement plans, good pension plans, and more time off in general, for not just maternity leave, for just like time off. Like Europeans get a month off every year. Because they have strong unions, and they also get several weeks of maternity leave. Like not just several, like huge amounts of weeks for maternity leave. So that's what unions can do. Unions can improve what workers get significantly. They can improve working conditions significantly. They can improve wages. They can improve benefits. They can improve time off. They can just improve anything, and that's why we need strong unions in this country. And I know I went over this in a previous video, but I just wanted to keep stressing it because unions are essential to shrinking the wealth gap between the bourgeois and the working class. So, what's another option other than unions? I mentioned collective owns the means of production, but I said that wasn't going to happen. That was a lie. It could happen. And the best way or only way that it could happen, or not the only way, I'll go into the worst. Let's start off with the worst way, actually. So the worst way is having a really democratic state own the means of production. So like the state owns the means of production, and the state is democratic, so people from the state vote for stuff from the state, and then the state does that with the means of production. So like say they have a vote on where new factories should be built, and the vote wins, and they voted for new factories being built in Oklahoma. So that means the state would then build factories in Oklahoma or stuff, and that's one way and the worst way to have collective owns the means of production, and it tends to lean more authoritarian and not work as well in the end. Now the other better way is through democracy in the workplace, or democratic workplaces like worker co-ops. Worker co-ops are something I advocate for a lot. I love worker co-ops. They're great businesses. They're a great business model, and essentially what we need to achieve market socialism in the Western world. So a worker co-op essentially works like you own your job. You get to decide how you work. You get to decide everything, and you also get you get to vote on things for the job, for not just for your job but for the company. You have stake in the company. You own your job, so you have stake in the company. Everyone has stake in the company. They get to vote on things that decide what the company does. That's why it's called democratic workplaces. And the benefits are very good because there's not a CEO at the top like soaking up the wealth, and everyone gets paid what value they created, or nearly. And yeah, it's just a great business model, and it's the best way to achieve democratically owned work, or not just democratically owned workplace, collective owns of the means of production. And I think that's a very realistic goal to set for achieving collective owns of the means of production and place it in the Western world. And I think we should be striving for to make worker co-ops more common in the US and Europe and things like that, because they have massively better benefits for their workers. They have better working conditions, better pension plans, better retirement plans, better maternity leave, better just everything. And not only that, they're more successful in the first 3 years, which is the most dangerous time for a business to exist. and they're just as successful, like profitability, as like not profitability, but they generate just as much wealth as normal corporations or normal company or the normal business model. So we need to shift away from private owns of the means of production and shift towards collective owns of the means of production, because value is only created by labor. And I hope I did a good job of explaining that and some ways to do it and what I think the best way to do it is. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Remember to like, dislike, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. I do read all comments, so make sure to leave one. And yeah, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you guys